Hi, good people. Good morning, afternoon, evening. I don't know what time you watch this podcast, but it is awesome to have you. Join us again at Vambo AI in Africa. What the beats? Anyway, it was like behind in my mind, it was playing the drums. And today we have an awesome guest, and we're going to have an awesome show and an awesome discussion. We have Linda else in the house, Gichohi, and I'd like her to introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Okay, hello. Hi, Lina.
Hi.
So I'm Linda Gichohi. I'm a legal profession. I specialize mostly on data protection, digital rights, privacy, basically the intersection of law, technology, and gender.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm also the founder of AAC Africa, which is Advocacy and Awareness Center Africa Initiative. We aim to empower young women and girls and the young leader in matters sustainable development goals, but specifically digital rights, mental health, peace and justice in that area through advocacy and awareness.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. So how did you get yourself there? These accolades,
Yes.
I'm like, and the audience maybe is also like, how in the world
Yes.
do you do all that? Yeah.
Well, I'm a lawyer by profession first. So I've always been interested in technology. So it is something that I've always wanted to venture in. So I decided what is close to technology, that is digital rights. Yeah, that is what that is. I feel like the future is digital, right? And in this space, we'll find that the more years come by, the more we move, most of the cases that are going to come up are going to be technology related. I think we can see that from some of the issues in terms of cyber attacks. We find that we also have hacking of systems, government systems, and all that. So I thought it was a very interesting area that I could venture in, and that's why I specialized on that.
So you are like, I'm going to jump in this pool before the rest of you figure it out, which is awesome.
Yeah.
What are the challenges of being a forerunner? I know we're going to get to the discussion, but yeah. Like, what are the challenges of being the first into a space that most people have not yet swum in?
One of it is when you tell someone the definition, I usually say I'm a legal tech. So that's basically what it means. So most people will be like, tech and legal, how does it come together? Yeah. So I think you really have to, one of the challenges is actually trying to explain to someone what it means. And by then, right now it's actually a bit more known in terms of, let's say, data protection and all that. But back then, when I actually ventured into the tech world as a legal professional, it was still, it's when the Data Protection Act was still coming up, and people didn't know so much about it. So I think the challenge was actually explaining to people what exactly do you do, and trying to tell them how do you need a legal person in this tech world. So you have to explain for them, data protection, that means protecting your personal data, your legal rights as an individual, your digital rights. So that's one of the major challenges. Yeah.
I almost feel it's with the new spaces in tech and the emerging technologies like AI and all that, there's so many new professions that are going to like come up.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when we started having content creators and influencers, and everyone was like, you do what? Content what? Influence who? But now when you say it, it's like, oh, people get what you do.
Yes.
Yeah. I think for me moving forward, I conjure a new word.
Yeah.
Comtech. And not computer, comtech in communication tech. Because I find myself in the space of tech, yet from the world of communication.
Yeah.
When that name becomes famous, please I have my lawyer here. She will,
Comtech.
she will prove that I was the first one to engineer. Anyway, so let's get back to our key discussion.
Yes.
And as you were sharing, you say that you saw that there's need for there to be awareness because you do advocacy, but also there's also need for people to understand that in as much as technology is there, you can't work technology and innovation outside law. Governance will always be there. So what are digital rights?
Okay.
When you're in the space of like tech and you hear digital rights, what should someone like be
think about?
Yes. Yeah.
So they refer to, by the name itself, digital rights, they refer to your individual rights within the digital space. So for example, you will say your right to privacy. That's a digital right. That's also in the Constitution. So you find that let's say you're in a space where, and I think right now it's becoming so broad, where like maybe you're in a workshop, you have to seek consent because you have your right to privacy. Someone may not want to appear on camera. Someone may not want maybe certain information to be taken. That in itself is data protection.
Yeah.
You find that a lot of with a lot of the hacking that is going on, sometimes you receive unsolicited messages on your phone, and you wonder who has my number, who is this sending me this message. Now that is your right to privacy, and specifically that is your personal data protection. So you need to ensure that your right is safeguarded, because what happens when let's say you get into a workshop, you've written your name, your email and everything, and someone collects that data, or someone even sells that data. What happens is now you'll start maybe receiving calls. Maybe some of them are even scammers and all that. So people who can use that information to get even more information about you, and it can even result to maybe financial implications. So that's where the legal side comes in. We have the right to privacy. We have data protection, protecting your personal data from any misuse or abuse. We also have the freedom of expression. So that is essentially your opinion. You have the right in the digital space to exercise your opinion, to exercise what you feel, not to be censored. That's also a digital right. You don't have, maybe you have something to say, and maybe a certain institution doesn't feel like you should say that thing, and initially they censor you. So, but that's also a critical area that is actually in contention, where does your right, your freedom of expression end? And that's where you say that my rights will start, my rights will start where your rights end, or vice versa. So we have freedom of expression, we have the right to privacy, we have data protection, we have cyberbullying, that is online gender-based violence. That's also your digital right to be able to enjoy the digital space, interact in the digital space without fearing or facing any kind of abuse that will cause sometimes mental effects, financial effects, and some even escalate to physical effects, where maybe if someone shares your personal data and people actually track you to where you stay. So those are some of the things that come up when you talk up when we enter into the digital future. So those are the scenarios that come up. We also have surveillance issues where CCTVs, I know it's for security, but where does it, there are certain areas where you don't really need to have CCTV, because the repercussions can also be bad.
Severe.
Exactly. For example, even washrooms, there are people even who say like certain hotels actually have CCTV. What happens if such kind of maybe videos come out? Those are the scenarios we talk about when we say your digital rights, your rights within the digital space. Yeah.
Okay. So linking it up with advocacy, I'm sure as you do your advocacy work, how familiar are people with digital rights? Because let me tell you, we have a whole hard copy constitution that has been alive for a minute, amended in 2010 and still exists for those of us who are in Kenya. But I don't know how many people have actually opened or even gone to the website to
find
out what it holds. So now I'm thinking here, now there's another layer to it called digital rights. So how aware are people about digital rights as you do your in your advocacy journey so far?
Yes. I'll start by saying, starting from the grassroots, it's very low because it also comes with other issues like the digital divide. So some of them don't even have the digital resources to even come up to know their digital rights. So that's the baseline of it. Going forward, to us normal people and all that, most people don't even know that for your photo to be taken anywhere, you need to consent. That's something that most people don't know, most people are not aware of. And that's why I felt that there was a gap and the need to educate people on your digital rights, because not many people know that. When it comes, recently we have companies and organizations who actually know about digital rights, and that's because you find that the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner actually started giving people penalties, or institutions and organizations maybe for not having the required privacy policies or data protection policies. So you find that people become aware of it when it affects them. Yes.
Like when there's crisis.
When there's crisis, that's when people are like, oh, now what is this about? We need to find what exactly this is about. And that's why we need digital rights awareness and advocacy in all sectors, so that people are able to know and are not people are not going to be taken advantage of.
So as you're saying that, I'm like, so how do we mitigate it? Because if we're waiting for crisis, if we're waiting for fire to break out, to call the fire brigade,
yes,
then we are not doing a good job. So how do we
ensure that we bridge that gap?
Exactly.
That's where you find that there are various organizations that do advocacy. First of all, us as ASC Africa, also Kenya ICT Action Network, because I work there and mostly we used to do advocacy on digital rights, data protection and all that. We've also seen the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, which has done a lot of advocacy. They even had advertisements on TV, or in terms of like, have you registered? Do you know about your data protection rights and various awareness and all that? But there's still more work that needs to be done by ensuring that everyone is aware of their digital rights. And that's the reason why I came up with ASC Africa, because I found that in every scenario you go to, most people, some of the recommendations were, there's need for more awareness and more advocacy. So I was wondering, are the organizations not enough? Are the institutions not enough to spread advocacy? Because every time we say advocacy. So what is the solution to that? Is to have institutions that actually got also to the grassroots, not only in the urban areas. And for us to go to the grassroots, we need to involve all stakeholders, including government to do their part, the NGOs to do their part, the technology companies to do their part, and all that. Yeah.
As you're talking, I was thinking. So let's put law as law first, without even digital rights.
Okay.
People get scared of law for some reason. Like if you hear someone, I think growing up personally, when
Yeah.
you hear someone has a court case, you already
Yeah.
go like, yo,
Yeah.
you know? Maybe it's because our court systems also have they're changing, but they've had a particular um, a particular testimony concerning them over a season of time. So I almost think people are aloof or live in a bubble where they know, yes, the law is there, but as long as for me, I'm doing the right thing and it's not affecting me, then it's okay. But then it also means reaching out to that person who is like, as long as within me, I'm fine, then it also becomes slightly harder because now if anything new emanates within that sphere of influence or that space of law, they're almost not aware at all because for them they're like, CB, I'm not stealing, I'm not killed, just the basics of law. So I'm thinking now that there's all this tech and it's changing fast, especially in the context of Africa. So AI is already here. Match Vambo AI plugged, you know? So how do you deal with this demographic of people?
Yeah.
Because they are still the ones who are aloof. They're still the ones who shun the law to some extent, not intentionally, by the way. It can be how someone grew up. It can be as a result of how someone was even, how the law is exercised
Or they
within
take it
someone's,
negatively.
because the law is exercised in your house a certain way, I will beat you up and you are thoroughly beaten up and you're like, this law thing. So it can be that. So how do you reach out to this person and tell them, on top of what you've been shunning, there's also something you call digital rights and it's important to you. Yet most of the people I know spend their time on their gadgets. And most times you're asked, do you want a cookie? Yes or no? Do you want to read the privacy? Agree. And most times people just, and I'll say I've been a culprit. I would say, but nowadays I really take time to read things before I assign to them on the online space. But how many people actually do that? I know I've rambled a lot of things, but let's go to how do you reach out to people who already, when it comes to law, they feel a certain type of way before you even introduce digital rights to them?
Yeah. I'd say law is a double-edged sword, first of all. So when you look at people who view law as mostly as a negative thing, like you're coming to limit my, so it's just looking, like trying to explain to them how it will also benefit them. For example, you find out that someone is, so maybe someone is even a content creator, let's say someone who goes around and maybe tries to talks to people, different people and all that, trying to maybe tell them you need to first seek consent. I would explain to them, you seek consent so that you can prevent situations where maybe in future someone will come and say, you know what, maybe someone is just looking for a payment or something and be like, and finds out that it's their right not to be maybe taken, their photo, their video not to be taken. Someone can come back and say, you know what, you infringed my rights, and tries to sue you. So in that way, you tell them this is protecting yourself. It's not even about limiting you. It's something that you just have to tick the box and say that, yes, this person consented. Maybe you have let's say what, a document or even just one page where someone can just tick and say, yes, I've consented to this and this. That will actually help you from so much and prevent you from like later having catastrophes and different things. So it's more about protecting yourself. For example, you'll find that there's a scenario where maybe someone will say, you know what, we I have my freedom of expression. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm speaking my mind. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just speaking what I need to say. But then you find that that person who will maybe say something that maybe can be detrimental to another person, you'll find that a lot of people, maybe some other people might find it offensive and attack that person. When they attack that person, that's cyberbullying. That's also against the law. So you find that as much as you feel like, yes, it's my freedom of expression to say whatever I want, you also have to realize that when you say that, also someone else might decide maybe to spread wrong information and post it there. So that's where now you will say that, you know what, I can actually sue this person. Why is this person saying wrong information about me? So it's a way to look at, this is protecting both you and that person, because now you can now say, yes, it's your freedom of expression. What if someone just posts a video, maybe a deep fake that is manipulated, it goes all around to your bosses and everything? How do you even explain that, okay, this is not true,
This
or
is
this
not
is
me.
Yeah. And that's when you'll find that the law will come in to save you. You get. But before, yes, you would say, no, everyone has a right to.
True.
Yeah, has a right to post. I can post anything I want,
Yeah.
until it comes to affect you. That's when you will realize that the law is both a protector and also it's a double-edged sword. So it's very important for you to know your digital rights and ensure that you do not, as much as your rights stand, you don't infringe on someone else, because the next time it could be you. So the moment you, let's say, for example, even politicians, you'll find that one person will say, you know what, these people are too much, we should limit their freedom of expression. Yes. That's maybe something, it's a right that maybe they want to infringe upon, but they do not, they would not know that the moment they do that, they also have a right to actually even sue that person for defamation. So it's not necessary. You don't really need to limit someone else's right to enjoy your own rights.
You just need to understand
that
where both of you are protected, and
Yes.
how each person can exercise their
Yeah.
protection and their right,
Yes.
To ensure that freedom is sustained.
Yes.
If I'm getting you correctly.
Yes.
So now that we have said, you know your rights, don't shun away from them. They can, as much as they can come and be a curtailer or create restrictions, they can also protect you.
Exactly.
So that you also, the freedom you have been enjoying can continue to be there. The protection is actually to allow that freedom.
Yeah. Yes.
And I was just thinking about it, and I remember I was having a conversation with someone, and I was telling them, actually, if you think about it, when laws are infringed, freedoms are equally infringed. Like, if a law is not kept, it means there's a freedom that is suffering the consequences of that law not being kept.
Yes.
So actually, when you are in law and order, the more expression of the freedoms you have and the rights you have the ability to thrive and to fully be maximized. So now we're in the digital era. So we have an entire space called the digital world. We used to read the world exists in our atlases. You can pinpoint, this is Nigeria, this is France, this is the US. But now there's the digital world. We can only use Facebook, social media, YouTube and all these spaces, the World Wide Web, and say, this is that thing. Pin location.
Yes.
So how then do we continue to experience that right, especially now that you've mentioned the area of data protection? Because there's a lot of data within the WW, World Wide Web. How can people just start simple exercises of ensuring that their data is actually protected. Because if you don't know, in the AI space and in the tech world, data is king. Data is like, you see how people for the longest time, our brothers and sisters who have had oil were sitting in, they could flex their muscle. Now data is oil. Like if you have data, you can flex your muscle
It
to
is
some,
power.
to some certain extent.
Yeah.
So how do people then start understanding how crucial data is, both protecting yourself and also not infringing
On someone else's.
on someone else's data protection rights?
Okay. So I'll start with some of the laws that are there. So we have the Data Protection Act 2019, which basically talks about all your rights in protecting your personal data. We also have the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act. So that is basically talking about all kinds of, let's say, cyber insecurity, cyberbullying, all that is catered for under the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act. We also have other regional laws. So far, we have that one. We also have the Kenya Information and Communication Act. And to start, I'll start with the simple stuff, which is the internet intermediaries that you've talked about.
Yeah.
So with that, you talk about the ones that actually facilitate communication within the technology space.
So let me cut you short just slightly,
Yes.
because I'm like, there's somebody who has had internet intermediaries and they're like, internet who? So kindly, for the sake of someone who's watching and doesn't understand what an internet intermediary is.
So these are basically the platforms that actually facilitate communication and interaction between individuals or whatever aspect in the digital space. So basically, when you talk about the platforms, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, X, we have TikTok, Instagram. Those are the internet intermediaries. Now that is under the social media platforms. We also have we have like the ISPs, internet service providers, Safaricom, Telcom, Zuku, who actually provide internet. We also have now Google. Talked about the Google, the platforms. Now we have Google, we have DuckDuckGo. We have very, very many Brave and all that. So all that is internet intermediaries because they facilitate communication within the technology space.
Awesome.
Yeah. So so you'll first start with simple stuff like, for example, if you're in any social media platforms, ensure that you go to the privacy settings. Go and just check what are some of the settings that are there, because there are also guidelines, community guidelines that are there to protect you and your personal data. So, for example, you don't want your video to be shared that you've posted. There's a place within the settings that you can actually go and switch off sharing of that. If you want your platform to be private, it can also be private. If you want to block people who are actually harassing you, you can actually do the same. There are so many tools that are there within the privacy settings that maybe others may not know about that can actually protect you within the social media platforms. Secondly, we also have when you talk about simple things like, let's say, Google, Gmail, and all that, they always have two-factor authentication. Ensure that you actually follow through that process. Have the two-factor. It might seem like a small thing, but it's actually something that will really protect you in case someone gets into, maybe you log into a certain computer or yeah. So those are the simple things that you can do. Other things is ensuring that for example, when you log into any website, any platform, you look at I know people don't have time. Some of them don't have time to read the whole thing, but just simply look at it. And also looking at cookies, you really don't have to accept cookies. Sometimes you'll just click accept so that you can go on. No, you really don't need to accept it. So those are some of the things some of the simple things that you can actually look at. When you go to any workshop, anywhere that you go to that you have to sign in your name, your details, it's actually your right to ask, um, like, why are you taking these details? What are you going to use it for? Those are simple things that you can actually do to exercise your rights. And it's actually there within the Data Protection Act, which says that you are a data subject. So one of the rights is being informed what data, why are you collecting this data? For what purpose are you collecting this data? For how long are you going to store this data? If you're going to share it, you need consent for the same. And that's when, if you find your content, maybe some data that is out there that you know specifically a company has shared it and you didn't consent to it, that's actually your right for them to actually delete it, or you come to an agreement. Those are some of the simple things that you can work around when you sign any document. And I'm glad that nowadays most organizations, institutions are a bit aware of that. So you'll find that they have privacy policies, data protection policies that you can actually look into. Those are the simple things that you can actually exercise within your daily to day basis. And you can even use some of the privacy VPNs. There are VPNs that you can actually use if you don't want your data to be out there. For example, if you're using you don't public Wi-Fi is not advisable. And if you really have to
Shout
use
it
it,
louder. Say
public
it.
Wi-Fi, using public Wi-Fi, especially transacting within that, someone can easily get all your information when you're transacting using public Wi-Fi. And they can actually get all your information.
So when you say transacting, what do
Yeah.
you mean?
That is simple things like even M-Pesa, using the M-Pesa app, for example. You're using the M-Pesa app, you're on public Wi-Fi. Someone can easily get your PIN within the vicinity. Maybe even maybe bank account information and all that. Ensure that some of this sensitive information, you don't use it when you're in a public Wi-Fi environment. And for the people who actually use it, you might as well use VPNs, but I do not advise for you to use public Wi-Fi within a. And if you're gonna use it, just maybe search simple things, but do not use it while you're actually doing some
very meaningful, important work that you are sure is a matter of life and death if it's outside there. Okay.
Yeah.
So on the larger scale, so someone has done the small needful things on their own personal space. What do we do then on the bigger space as entities within government, as entities within the public sector, private sector, to ensure that data protection is a thing that people don't assume, but know, understand, and actually implement?
Okay. So let's say an organization or a company, you need to have your organizational measures. You need to have a privacy policy. You need to have a data protection policy. So the difference is,
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I was like,
what is the difference? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, no, it's not exactly the same. Data protection policies are internal documents. They are internal such that it is meant for as an employee, how do you conduct how do you conduct your affairs as an organization? So it's mainly for your employees, for the staff members, to understand how we operate. So, for example, if they're taking any data from a client, or what are some of the measures they need to take? When they need to consent, they need to train also your employees about the data protection rules and laws, because you find that specifically most organizations and companies that have been given maybe penalty notices by the ODPC are mostly because of the staff and employees that maybe do not understand the data protection laws very well. For example, you'll find that there was a case where it's a company that is selling mostly herbal stuff. So you find that the employees would use all their contacts to message either people they know or even people they don't know about buying that product. So you find that one of the people that received that message went and raised a complaint to the ODPC. So you find that when there is a complaint, it's not the employee that will be held accountable per
It's the
se.
company.
It's the whole company. So those are some of the measures as a company that you should take first. Train your employees. Now the data protection policy, you train them on what exactly this entails, how they're supposed to conduct themselves, if they're supposed to send the messages for marketing purposes to ensure that the client has actually consented to it, maybe through signing something or a document that they have accepted.
Yeah.
So those are some of the nitty gritties that you can take. So for a privacy policy now that is when you see that even in websites you see the privacy policy, because now this is for the users. Yeah. So for us users, you'll find that yes, maybe you've logged into a website of which company? Let's say any company.
Company Z.
Let's say Vambo AI.
Okay.
Yes, Vambo AI. So you've logged in. You've just not even logging in. You've just gone to their website and all that. So you have a privacy policy where someone clicks accept.
Yes.
So that is for me as a user to read, to know how, if I'm gonna put in any data in whatever way I've already consented to your policies.
Yeah.
So now that is for me, for the users out there, for the clients and all that. But then Vambo AI will have its own data protection policy that is internal for your people and your employees and all that. But for the clients and the users out there, now you will have the privacy policy.
Get it. So now so we've done the individual space, we've done you're in corporate, and you want to ensure that you are tracking rights when it comes to digital rights and data protection, being one of them. So now, how then does the ecosystem of government come in to ensure that what someone is doing in the individual space and what the business space or the private sector is doing is also right? How then does government sandwich, like the person has done their individual work, the corporates are doing it. Where does government come in?
In what way exactly?
So do they ensure that people can access, like the government has the laws embedded somewhere, they're continuously being checked to see if they're still relevant, or are there amendments to what's already been there? Are there policies that are continuously being checked to, because the tech space and the AI space shifts. Today you can sleep with something in existence, tomorrow it's non-existent, and another thing exists to replace it.
Yes.
So how then does government also work itself within? Yeah.
So actually that's a very good question, because was it last week? Yes, last week we had the official launch of the Kenya AI strategy. And that has been in development since last year, which we actually took part in as stakeholders to give our opinions, what we want the Kenya's AI strategy to talk about. And one of the issues that actually came up was that AI technology in general is an ever evolving sphere. So how do we ensure that the laws in place are actually up to date when it keeps changing each and every time? So and that's when you come up with, yes, we have the Kenya AI strategy, and it's really nice. It's a broad. It's something that was actually thought about well. All the stakeholders are involved and all that. But then also we it's not necessarily an act. It's something that is guiding us to when now we are going to come up maybe with an act maybe later on. And so far we actually have very few policies and frameworks around AI. Like internationally, we have the EU AI Act.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all that. So you find that the government in this way will come in to give guidelines. And that's when you find that, yes, we have laws and bills, but find that every time we have amendments, we've seen that with finance bill. Yes, finance bill. And I think that's when I find that, yes, when things become outdated, you can actually amend the laws with according to what is on trend, but also to ensure that the policies that we put are actually foresighted in a way that it can cover. A good example is the Constitution of Kenya. You'd find that there's as much as technology is there, we have the right to privacy in it. It has encompassed, as much as it's not specifically talking about maybe digital rights in it, but it's something that actually helps when there's an issue that comes up in terms of privacy. We have the Data Protection Act. The law, it's a law that is there that is actually protecting personal data, and um, it's very crucial. It's also going through amendment. That's where government comes in by ensuring that the laws are up to date through the amendments and ensuring that there's also public participation in it. And also government entities are also some there are also some of the institutions that are also held liable because they also have to adhere to the data protection laws. And you find that the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner states it as one of the challenges because there are certain institution organizations that have not adhered to 100%. And one of them is actually the government entities. So it's something that needs a collaborative effort for us to actually get where we want to be.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think my takeaway is know how you can start small within your own personal space to, one, understand the landscape called digital land or digital world, or whichever term you want to put it, but understand how you operate in the digital space. Then after you've understood it, understand what laws govern the digital space. What rights do you have every time you're interacting within the digital space? And then start small. Start with you. Start implementing read your privacy laws.
Know your rights.
Know your rights.
Yeah. Then you can educate others.
Also become one to advocate and pass the message to someone else. And with that, good people, hayawi translates into English. What I'm saying is every good thing must come to an end. That was Swahili version of that statement. And it was awesome having you, Linda.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, let me confess in front of the masses, law for me personally has been one of those things that was iffy. But the more I sit around data and understand why it's king, the more I'm like, y'all need to get your act together and really understand the rights that you have. Because at the end of the day, you can't protect yourself and protect other people if you don't know what infringement is and what freedom is. And I will leave it at that. I've been Linah Kitala, your host. Please join, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to watch Vambo AI. And until the next one, peace.